Last week, the European Union got the Nobel Peace Prize. Why? It seems completely, utterly insane to me. It's almost like, as Tariq Ali said, almost like a really bad joke. The Nobel Committee Chairman Thorbjørn Jagland, probably said that wrong, praised the EU from transforming Europe from a continent of wars to a continent of peace. What? In the last year, there almost couldn't be any more upheaval in the European Union. Basically, almost all the countries are at each other's throat over money, over debts, over their economic systems, and many sides threatening to quit. It's just simply not true. This comes at a time when the very existence of the European Union is being threatened. Like, we could be looking at the end of the European Union. So that doesn't even really make much sense. I mean, economically, every country in the European Union, there might be one or two that aren't, are actively promoting unemployment. They're promoting people being unemployed through their policies. The policies that are trying to be pushed through against the will of the regular people. I mean, come on. Unemployment is peace? I'm not saying they're specifically stating that, but this is what they're doing. And this is what's supposedly supposed to be peace. I mean, they're creating real divides within the European community, not even just among countries. They're creating serious class divides in every country among all people. This recession, like a lot of recessions, increased the wealth gap between the rich and the poor. And this is no different. But somehow this, and all the social problems it causes, and all the social antagonisms that it causes, is peace. I mean, like, forget almost daily, there's violent protests in the European Union, people protesting their own governments, or like when Angela Merkel was visiting and she was massively protested. So, I mean, this is not peace. We are not in a time of peace. This is just, it's simply ridiculous. Virtually every single European Union country has troops in either Afghanistan or Iraq or both. So the major countries in the European Union have troops actively fighting in a war. Possibly more than one war is the promotion of peace. I mean, I get what it is that they're trying to, the cover they're trying to give it. Well, the world wars have ended, so therefore Europe is not as violent as it used to be. It's more peaceful now. All they did was essentially shift what was the world wars onto another country. Obviously, it's nowhere near the same scale, and it's possibly not even comparable with previous colonialism that existed in past decades or even the past century. But this is not a time of peace. They're not promoting peace. They're actively going to war. On the war in Afghanistan and Iraq, for example, which are completely ridiculous, which are like possibly two of the dumbest wars that have ever existed, and could not have served the interests of the ruling elite any more openly. I mean, it's right there for everyone to see. These are not acts of peace, these are acts of war. 3 million people have died in these two wars, and God knows how many injured. I wouldn't even be able to calculate how many people have been injured. And when a country joins the EU, it's almost mandatory that they have to join NATO. Basically, almost any country that joins it has to be a part of NATO. There are a few exceptions, but anybody with any serious power does have to join NATO. Even mid-sized countries that don't even really have that much power have to join NATO. I mean, nothing speaks to peace like that being part of the European Union is peace, like having to join a military organization. Yeah, it's a defense treaty or whatever complete ridiculous context it is, considering that NATO was designed to prevent against the Soviet Union, which no longer exists, and that even Russia is trying to work its way into being part of a defensive strategy or a defensive organization that was intended to combat themselves. I mean, the usefulness and the intention of NATO, it couldn't be any more blatantly obsolete. This is insane. Europe has almost completely backed everything that Israel has done to Palestine. All the crimes that have been carried out against Palestine, trying to deny Palestinian statehood, trying to freeze them out, ignore their existence. They've been doing all of it. The EU has put through, new laws that have suspended habeas corpus. They've put through law after law after law that suspends people's rights. But these are acts of peace, apparently. Apparently, peace isn't the absence of war and oppression. Peace is the mechanism of war and oppression. I don't know, maybe that logically tracks in somebody's mind where they can say, well, if you really, really suppress the people, then therefore is peace. I don't know. That may track in somebody's mind. It certainly tracked in Hitler's mind. To take this even further, European countries have sent people to Guantanamo. Just handed them over to the U.S., send them to Guantanamo. If not actually sending them to Guantanamo themselves. For the complete, utter, flimsy, and ridiculous and fascist pretext that is the war on terrorism. Sending people to a place where you know they get tortured and more often than not are completely innocent of anything is somehow a promotion of peace. This could not be, it could not be any more the opposite of that. Not to mention all the European countries that had CIA black sites on them, that allowed the CIA to come in and torture people because if it technically doesn't happen on U.S. soil, then therefore it's not a crime. Which is, in law, that may be true, but it's still a moral non sequitur. But to finish this up, the EU does not deserve a Nobel Peace Prize because they've quite literally not only done nothing to deserve it, they've very clearly done the opposite. In fact, it would be very hard to find anybody in the world right now that actually deserved a Nobel Peace Prize.